What's up, y'all? What's new, France? What's up, y'all? Oei. What's new, France? It appears that I have my own website open somewhere. It's over here. All right. Should be better. Now to find this thing back again. Ah, here we go. Hello, Sabbe. Scholletjes, bololletjes. Today we're drinking classic old Karmeliet. One of the faves. Poured it a while ago. Excuse me. So as you can see, the just chatting window is back. Back with a vengeance. It's working. The chat is working too, which is great. Yeah, that's nice, huh? Something that I added a bunch of to-dos to my to-do list, and I'm now trying to cover every time we start, which is to let the dog inside. I'm not sure if you've seen him running around, but maybe you will eventually. So that's done. Great. I also chose a playlist that shouldn't have copyrighted music. I noticed that some of the stream had a muted sound, so that's not great, of course. Yeah, that's all I think I wanted to say about that. And maybe first some light shilling. If we skip out of this thing and go to the live coding frame, I can share my screen with y'all. And this is the thing that I wanted to shill. So last year, 2023, that was, I was hosting, as you might be able to see, or co-facilitating the Socrates BE Unconference in Belgium. This year we've got a date already, but we haven't confirmed a venue just yet, but that will come very soon. So if you wanna come to that one, put these dates in your agenda. So if you don't know what Socrates is, it's an unconference, or actually Socrates itself stands for Software Crafting and Testing. It's an international community of which we've got a Belgian branch, let's say. It's really just a community about peers and people that want to share their experience with each other to elevate each other's crafting level, let's say. Yeah. Typically, it's about IT, programming, testing, stuff like that. But it can also dip into like team dynamics, a little bit of philosophy sometimes, stuff like that. So if that's things you like, you might want to come to this conference. I think there's also Socrates UK, which will happen somewhere in September, I believe. And then France should also happen again this year, which is close to this date. I hope we're not colliding with them. That would be unfortunate. And then there's Socrates Germany. I don't know by heart when those dates are, but yeah, you can figure it out yourself, I'm sure. Voila, that's I think all I wanted to share about that. So today, what we're going to try and do is continue working on that KunlaQuota project that we started last time, or that I explained since last time. And I've added a bunch of to-dos that we might want to do. So this is the thing I did. This was already fixed. I think this is just a reminder to myself, which I can leave checked for now because I will not forget it. I think this is fixed too, fixed as well. The bot I haven't done just yet. And this I also haven't done just yet. But I did make the repository public, and I did add a readme. So maybe we can start by sharing this link in the chat, and then you could follow that if you want. Pardon, if you want. Last time we did, well, I showed that we got the browse all and the add quotes, but we noticed also that we don't have dates yet. So the date at which a quote is posted is supposed to be an important aspect of it. We haven't taken that into account just yet, and neither did we do ordering correctly just yet. And this stub rename, we can do that quite fast, I think. As a gentle reminder, last time Jones had a quote. It's now forever memorized in this README I've got. So you can find that one somewhere in, I think it's in stream.md or something. Yeah, voila, here we go. So this will count as our quote, the quote application until we've got a working actual backend. All right, so now that we've got that covered, let's see where we can start with that. So maybe if we want to add a date to our quote, something that we can share. Ah, bonsoir, monsieur. Comment allez-vous? I never texted you. I will text you right now. It will take just a moment. Oh my, I cannot type at all. Voila. Now I will never forget. Because I did it already. Ho ho ho. Alright. So on to the stream. Or the things that we wanted to do is we want to make sure that when we add a quote that we can actually also save a quote that has a date in it. So where do we just here adding a quote fails and adding a quote succeed, the quote is returned. This is something that I want to do. So initially when we find all of the quotes, they should be empty, and then what we want to do is we want to add a quote, some kind of a date, right? And when this thing is executed in our stub, we should be able to find the one that we just persisted. So behind the scenes, there is some kind of a quote here. That the one that comes out of this execute should be the one that's also persisted in the stub. That's really what we're saying. So now what I want to do is, I think I don't want to touch this thing, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I believe. Actually, no, we cannot really test this. Is what I'm figuring out right now, because the date somewhere in this execute, I think what we'll do is just upon creation of a new quote, we'll just add the local date.now or something like that. So maybe let's just try adding a date to a quote and see what fails. That's always fun, I think. What do we call that? Maybe at. Say that it's a local date time. And then run a compile to see what fails. Scholar. You haven't gotten yourself anything yet. Now's an excellent time. So let's just make this work by saying that at equals local datetime.now, and then we do another compile, or maybe we've got, there's another compilation issue over here. Again, maybe it's a smart idea to just do local datetime.now over there too. Voila. Let's compile again. Oei, more compilation errors. So here we expect starting to think that it wasn't a great idea to not pass along a default. So maybe what we should do is undo all of the stuff that we did, and then instead just add this one again, where we say give it a default, and then we can compile. No, normally it should just work over here. So here it won't work because we did not define a parameter name there. Same here. Let's try that again. And this time we'll try adding it after the lines. Oula, now it's making it nullable for some reason. Or the suggestion is to make it nullable. That's not what I want to do. This should work. Now voila. Alright, now let's see if all of the tests are green. It shouldn't be, because we don't have a date. Great. So all of the DB quote repository is failing, and somewhere in here we're also having to deal with the fact that this actual is something that gets created somewhere inside of the execute, and our expected is something that we manually set up ourselves over here. So it's impossible to have the same dates there, of course. So I think what we'll have to do is in both the multi-line quote and the quotes service itself, we'll have to provide something that can provide us with a date and then have like a default value of a clock or something like that. That's how we typically do that. So instead of how do you say that? Just take what the other option, I guess, it's maybe something that we should look at too, is we could simply ignore the date as well, but then we're not asserting that there's a correct date filled in. So maybe let's try dealing with that issue right now. I think it can be something that I learn out of at least. So let's try it. So instead of just saying I want a multi-line quote, I want to say I also expect some kind of a date here. Now the question will be, do I want to provide the specific date, or do I just want something that gives me a date? And that those things should be the same. Let's try the first approach, which is to say I want time dot, and then I think there's another constructor like this. No, maybe one that is a bit nicer, something like that. We'll call this now, and then what I want to do, it will be more difficult to do that. Okay. Let's just keep on trying it until we really hit the problem. So the 1st of January, it really doesn't matter that much, I guess. Maybe we want some numbers here. Voila. Under 2024. This is May the 4th. Coincidentally, sorry. It was not a meme. Purely accidental. We want to add this add parameter. It should be a time, that's fine. Yeah. We cannot put it as the last parameter because then our curly doesn't work anymore. Okay, so here we are saying that these are the lines, and here is what I want to be building, the local date. So at least now I was able to configure the data I expect. And now the quote-unquote only thing I need to do is maybe we should add it to the execute. Then we can say what the date provider of the execute should be. Maybe that's already good enough. So our execute should have a date provider. Something that provides the date, and we can just provide now to it all the time. We'll add that to... Oh, that's not what I want to do at all. Is there no way to add it? Maybe if I add it in the front, something like this. Or I should tell what this thing is. Local date time. Wait. I'm not sure that we can do it like that. Alright, let's copy this. Voila. Go to... yeah. There's two overloads here. Let's put it there. And then as a default, I can say just to local date time. Stop now. And then what I want to do, why is it not compiling? And overriding, yeah, you need to put this on the interface. Why is there no suggestion add this date provider to iQuotes? Maybe I also want to put it at the end, in fact, nee. Like this. Date provider equals local date time. Something that always returns local date time, but now. Okay. And then we can always choose to just not pass that along to our execute. So if we go to... where was it? In our test or something? Oh, I cannot find it like that. Let's go back to where we last edited. Ah, voila. Here. Okay. Voila. Like this. Then at least the date is configurable. And that means that when we execute, we can we can call this one over here, saying that the at equals this, lines equals that. And then, yeah, we need to still execute it. Execute the date provider at this point in time or during execution. And then compile. I think we should be good. Nee. Okay, where is the now coming from? Here, yeah. So I guess when we don't care about what the now really is. Oh man, look at how nasty this looks now. That's unfortunate. So here when we say we don't really care what it is, the local date time, we just give it a default. And then if we remove that, I was hoping that IntelliJ would suggest me to move it out. Instead it was just not compiling. It's very weird. More stuff that's failing. Oh yeah, of course. So now the add quote should take... here we can alt enter, I'm sure. Change. Do this. Sweet. So we can just ignore the date provider here. And the stub config. Wow, this is better, huh? Alright, let's run the tests again. And have a sippy sip. It looks like we've got one less of a failure. That's great. So now all we need to do is fix the quote repository test, and then we'll go on a refactoring spree. So as a reminder, these contract tests here, it's an abstract class, but it gets implemented by two of our classes that implement a quote repository. One of them is a stub and the other one is a DB, so the real one. And the idea here is that this allows you to keep your stub implementations honest, so that in fact they do or execute the same behavior than your real implementation is doing. So we do that by just putting the behavior in a contract test, something that describes the promise of a quote repository, or using a quote repository, which in our case is just really storing and retrieving quotes. We know that it's just a DB quote repository that's failing, so let's just run this one, and then we can check why. So of course, the actual does not contain, or always contains an at that is somewhere here, but the dates are slightly different, of course. So how can we fix that? Glad you asked. It's really just a matter of going to the implementation and then also making sure that we can persist or keep track of the, I think we called it the at field of a quote, and then save that thing along with our quota. So that means in our quote DAO, what we're saving here is a record. So this quote record over here, it should include, maybe we can also add parameter names like that. And then I think what I'll want to do is I also want to do like this. So this at here should be referencing the at from the quote. For the lines, I don't think we care because they're linked to the quote itself, or the quote record, I mean. So then the next thing we should do, it's over here. So it's the other way around. So here we want the ID to be something like this. And then on the quote record, here we can just also pass along the same at that we don't have yet. So let's go to record and then add the at. I hope this will just work, but you never know. Oh no, Jan Sabba. Either is a library. So yes and no. It's a well-known type. So let's go to arrow.kt. Either. So arrow.kt is a library, and they define either as a sealed class, but they've got much nicer, what's it called? Yeah, utility functions on their type, so that you can do some nicer things with it, like mapping and flat mapping. And instead of just using this one, I wrote it myself for, I don't know, shits and giggles, I guess. But maybe I should have used an actual type here. And then the Sabba says that he doesn't like the either, but he would prefer a result that has an OK and an error. So that, my friend, is just a rename away because I wrote it myself. But let's do that after we've fixed the test. And let's just see how that feels. Rename either to result. God damn it. Voila. Okay, so what did we do? We just changed our quote record thing, but what we haven't done yet, and we said actually there's an ID field here, and there should be an at thing as well. Voila, it's red country. cannot refactor it just yet. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that this local date time is persisted. And for that, I've got some stuff in resources in migration where we say there's a lines table, there's also an ID on the quote, and now we can add an @ which should be a timestamp. Let's make it not null. And then see how this works. No idea. So let's rerun the tests. Huh? Hopefully this is all that we need. Hey, voila. Great. So if we go to the test again and then rerun all of the tests. What's up, Alex? Voila. So we just completed this one. Hey. So we saved the date at which a quote was posted. That's great. Our end-to-end test is surprisingly also green. This is interesting. Is that because, yeah, we're just exporting the quote over here. So we're not really changing or verifying that it has a date now. Which I guess is fine for now. Because here we can just verify that we can add and fetch quotes. Should be okay. The other thing that I was wondering about now is in our contract test. In this single line quote, we're not really using that at all, but implicitly we are. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because now we've only verified that we can, even though we know behind the scenes it'll be the same thing. Where is that multi-line where we pass along the data? We don't even have that. It's just because our builder, where is it? This one goes to quote, and then quote coincidentally has a date. And so maybe we should make it more explicit that this should have a date or something. I don't know. What do you folks think? At least the multi-line quote has a specific one. So it's being used over here. Oh, I think it's fine actually. Okie dokie. Let's commit and mention that as made sure we can also, how did we say it? Save the date. Date at which a quote was created. Good enough for me. This we can push, and then we go back to our stream.md file. We can do the rename if you want. Should not be too difficult. So here's my either class. There's some wacky stuff going on with unsafe variants here, which I don't understand, and I guess I don't want to bore you all with figuring out why that is a thing. So this will name to result. Left will name to, this is the error case. So let's call it error. And then this is the OK case. So let's call it OK. And then here, everywhere where there's right, we should, it was only there, so you expected an OK, but got an error. Voila. Should be okay now, huh? If we look look at where right or left or either. It's only here. I think we just did that. So there we go. We named either to result. There is a bit of a thing where result, our own result type, will be conflicting with Kotlin's built-in result type. And then there's also the result for K library from Duncan McGregor and Nat Price. What's going on here? We don't have to. There's an unchecked cost. What if we don't? That's an issue with the or fail thing. No, let's do that instead. Okay. We commit. We push. Great. Next, renaming the stub to fake. That's also an easy thing to do. But should we? Where was a real life example of a stub? The repository stub, of course. Let's look at its usage. Somewhere in this quotes test. So here, we want to really test the behavior of this quotes class. Really, it's the service class. And behind the scenes, so you go look at the implementation of find all, for example. It's going to return a result that can either be the quotes, fetching the quotes failed, or it returns a list of quotes. And it just delegates to this code repository's find all method. Same for, the store is not really directly accessed, but in those executes here, we're using the store over here as an extension function so that we can save it, the quote that we just created based off of the command add quote in our or via our repository. That's what's happening over there. And what we want to do is verify that execute mainly just works. And the other thing that we want to test is that when we execute find all on the quote service, but something should happen with the database, like a failure should be returned. Yeah, in that case, what we want to verify is that the delegation still works and the error isn't handled right there. It just gets passed along. And to do that, we want to set up our stub or fake to fail on the next call. And so we use a stub for that. And there was some talk that the Saba mentioned last time that maybe it shouldn't be called a stub but a fake. So what's the difference between a stub and a fake? So in my book, or the way it lives in my head, is that a stub implements the same behavior as your real database code repository in this case. But you can add extra behavior on it, like you can configure it to, for example, break on the next call, or what else? You can configure it to just contain some data in it if you want as well. So methods that the repository itself shouldn't have on its own. That's what makes this a stub and not a fake. For me, yeah. So, and then a fake would be something that only implements the interface of the repository. And then the sub says what I just said, while a stub always returns the same result whatever you called before. So that would mean if we call find all multiple times, So here it would also still return an error. I guess that's something you configure something to be returned once, and then it will always return that. Well, for me, that's a mock. We've got a mock. Wait, let's add a sketch file. Mock versus stub versus fake versus, and I think there's also a spy. Mock is when you verify the call. Aha. Okay. When you can verify. Okay, here we go. So mock verify the call. But configure whatever you want to return. Stub is then configure whatever you want to return. Or constrained to implementing only the methods of the interface. Then fake would be configure whatever you want to return, but do it not constrained, I guess. Like that. And then a spy is, oh, the fowler. Always trust the fowler. You have it, you're right. Should update my my knowledge. Oy. I guess I'm not sure. I'm sure that in 2007 that was probably the meaning of it all. Have a working implementation, but usually takes some shortcut which makes them not suitable for production. Find that quote. Yeah. So this is something I will read up on later. Either we also can remove. Okay, and then a spy is. What is a spy then? A spy is similar to a mock, but then that also typically delegates to the real implementation. The sub says spies are stubs that also record some information based on how they were called. And one form of this might be an email service that records how many messages it was sent. Man, these are very different terms from how Mockito uses them, I think. I guess what ended up happening is over the years I just learned somehow the distinction between what Mockito means and then a spy on JavaScript. Oh my god, yeah. That what I was trying to say is that the lingo is no longer accurate. That's unfortunate. But I think we should agree on what the fowler is trying to say. So I'll read up on it again and then make sure that my team now knows the difference. It might mean that we'll have to rename all of our stub implementations to something else though. So is our case, so where I am here, this stub thing, the way I'm using it is I can just call find all on it, etc. And then the real implementation, or sorry, not the real, but like an in-memory thing is being used behind the scenes when you're using it on the quote service. But then I can also set it up to fail. Where is that? Here, fail on next. So this just means whenever execute is called, whenever it will access this function here to do the store, then it's going to return with this add quote failed error. So is stub then a good name? Ah yeah, that's unfortunate then. Because now those poor people, whenever they are in talks with someone like the Sabbe, then ah yeah, okay. Good arguments, Amarth. Okay. So for now, here I think I can rename it to fake. Or should we keep it to stub? Because most people I know, they have a similar idea of what stub means. You do you? That's not how we work, eh? Oh, fucking hell. Now I need to rename it all everywhere, eh? So yeah, I want to rename it. And I think we're quite fine. Okay, the failure stub. Maybe we should just rename that thing in general. There's also a failing quote stub, so something that always fails. This one should be renamed to a fake too then, I guess. Let's call it a fake config 2 then. Is there something else that we can rename to some stuff? So this one I don't think I want to, because it's more like a utility class, let's say. So let's call it failure configure or something like that. And we can get rid of stuff in everywhere. Great. And then we can also tick this box, yeah. My mother. That might be a stub. This one. So this one is a bit funky. It might need some explanation. Because this class is a failure stub and it implements the can return failure interface. And our contract is saying that the can return failure interface has a function called fail on next that takes in a function name and a failure. Or failure type, but the same type that we define in the generics over here on the can return failure thing. Where was I going with that? And the way it's implemented is that when you call fail on next, you will add to a map this failure over here. And then when it gets invoked, so if you in Kotlin there's a thing, a feature, so what I can do maybe as an example, let's say that I just instantiate a failure stub like this. Now we don't really know which one we're choosing, in fact. And we should say that this is a can return failure of a. Maybe it's better to see it in as an example. Wacht, yeah, so our fake. Let's put it on a new line. So we're saying our code repository fake then. It's implementing the code repository itself. So that's why we've got overrides on the store and the find all. But we're also saying that it's implementing the can return failure interface, the one we were just looking at. And we're saying, actually, my guy, you can implement this can return failure by just looking at or by delegating to or fail. And or fail is a private val that gets injected into the constructor of this fake, which is of a type failure stub with a failure. And this is its default. So you could override this fake, but typically you wouldn't, I guess. But by doing that, you don't have to you don't have to define all of the other override functions of the can return failure, because they will be taken care of by this failure stub. So in Java, it would look something like this. So where you would say override fail on next, and you would just delegate to or fail on next with fun and failure. But so this we don't have to write because there's by delegation in use. So that's the first trick that we're using. The other one, and it's easy to miss, is that we're saying that the store function here implements this store function from the quote repository, but the way it's implemented is it's being guarded by this, or wrapped by this or fail function over here. And the or fail function is the failure stub itself. So maybe a better way to look at it is that there's an invoke that is being called on the or fail object. And in Kotlin, when you have a function called invoke and you put the operator keyword in front of it, it looks, or you can make it look as if you just invoke the thing. So that's why I can make it look like this. So this in combination with I want the name of the same function over here, and then it also takes in a block, and the block is a lambda. You can put lambdas outside of the parentheses when they appear as the last argument of a function. So that way you can just make a function implementation look as if this is just the body of the function, but really it's being wrapped by this or fail thing over here. So this is nice because I can put my behavior of dealing with failures basically inside of the failure stub, because that's generic behavior. That's or cross-cutting behavior maybe is a better term for it. And then I can leave or implement my fake by just using a backing list to put the quotes in, etc. That's all. So can return failure is a failure stub. So is failure stub a good name for this failure stub is what we're asking. Or should it also be called fake? We look at the definition again, or the suggestion that Jan said, or the Saba said. As I had in my mind, a fake does what you just said, while a stub always returns the same result whatever you call before. Yeah, indeed. So this does always call whatever we configured, so this is in fact correct. An actual stub then. Cool. So we can mark this one off. And we said renamed fake, nee, other way around, stub to fake, where it was a fake instead of a stub. There we go. And then make sure they're ordered newest first, so that has something to do with this date function over here. Maybe this could be a nice, I wonder if you can make a, so I was thinking there should be an end-to-end test somewhere. This one will keep open for now. And rest, voila. So here there's an end-to-end test. What can our application do? Well, you can add and fetch quotes, and you can do that the same thing. So when you're, adding multiple lines with the same order returns a helpful error. So something like that, where you say, actually, guess this makes sense that we do that. Let's do the same for newest location too. So this would be newest quote. And then, no, we also want that. Then we go fetch all of the quotes. And then this body here, we are just mapping the IDs. And I guess what we could do now is we could say it should contain exactly, and then first the newest location dot last segment, and then the oldest location dot last segment, because it contains exactly also verifies order. Otherwise we would have to say in any order, right? Okay. So if we run this test, I actually expect it to fail, because we haven't done anything with the order just yet. We're not sorting them. And fail it does, with reason. Yeah, if you look long and hard, you can see that they're switched up. But it doesn't really tell you the date. So maybe instead of the ID, yeah, I wonder. It will be difficult to check or to verify the date here. Bah, let's just keep the ID to check it. It does what it does, or does what it's supposed to. We can probably also refactor this a little bit more. Just do some small tidying so that it's clear that we're first adding a quote like this, and then we're adding another quote like this. Yeah, it's obvious that it's duplication, but we'll fix that later. So now we've got a failing test. We can look into how we can fix it. So first things first, if we look at our HTTP stuff, here we've got a post that's defined, and here we can check. Yeah, actually, when you post something to API/quote, we always expect an add quote command to be entered there via JSON. So what we do is we try to execute this add quote over here. After this execute is finished or completes, and this returns a result and no longer an either, a result. And a map transforms the success version of this result. So the OK side of this result. So when we get a success, we also get a quote that was just created. And then we return a created, so a 2 a 1, where our ID of the quote we just created is part of the URI. So that's of the location header. And that's really what we're saying here. Location equals. And if we got some kind of a failure, we're gonna check if it was an add quote invalid. In that case, we want to return a bad request with what was bad about it. And we also log that thing. Or if something happened while adding a quote and it was probably our fault, we can respond with an internal server error, but we also want to log that failure. Okay, so we know that we want to do something about ordering. So let's go look at execute then. So if we go to execute, you can see that it's an extension function on the command add quote itself. It just delegates to execute the function that takes in an add quote. So let's go there. Oh damn, I wanted this one. So here we check. I remember here's the date provider. Again, of which the default is defined in the interface and not right here. So we'll try to validate this add quote. And again, if that thing succeeds, or if it fails, if it doesn't validate, it's an illegal add quote command, then we'll immediately return a result with this add failure type, which can be either add quote failed or add quote is invalid. Otherwise, we've got a validated add quote, and we can continue creating our new quote with that. And this is the thing that will be stored then. That's great. So here, nothing actually is going to return us some kind of an order. So that's how the REST API of post works. But of course, we are interested in the find all. What are you making? Haha, that's a good question. So I think that's something I can quickly explain. We're making an application called KunlaQuota, which is really just some silly application, a breakable toy, where we are able to add quotes, multi-line quotes or single-line quotes, and then we should be able to fetch those quotes again. So this is all an assignment that I've given all of my colleague developers that want to improve their craft. And yeah, they are now also doing this. Actually, tomorrow we'll be going over both of these small stories here to see how far they got and what they struggled with. So maybe we can share some experience with each other. So yeah, for now that's it. Eventually, we also want to share those quotes. We want to be able to read a shared quote, and then when people do that we track that somehow. And then we also want to not only sort by newest to oldest, but also by which one is more popular. So that's the first milestone. So after that, our application will be in some kind of a state that we can add some more interesting behavior to it. Like, yeah, we'll see where we get when that happens. And eventually maybe there's some Slack integration or integration with business intelligence people that are interested in how stuff gets created, and they just want to know all of it, all of the information. There might be some author authenticity, so basically this will be authentication, and some silly features like converting emojis to emoticons, or the other way around. I'm not really sure how to express it. So that's the thing I'm making, and it's in Kotlin on Spring Boot, and I'm using Spring Web MVC's router function DSL, which is quite new to me. And the other thing that's new to me is Spring Data JDBC for my DB code repository. So this part, where we can use a quote-unquote DAO, which is a CRUD repository, and this is the one from Spring Data JDB, and then the JDBC equivalent of that one. Cool, eh? I hope that answers your question. I think I also added it somewhere in where is it? In the about section, I hope. Yeah, it's fun. I think it's small enough to get somewhere where we can explore technology and the stuff that people are typically struggling with. It's freeform, yeah. Not everybody is making it in Kotlin. But the people that don't, they are wrong, eh? So. They can do it in whatever language that they want, or mainly the idea is that they should feel comfortable in it. Yeah, indeed, it does look like Ktor, eh? You're right. But I learned that this thing exists for 5 years already, which really blew my mind. Like, I haven't been using it. But the thing about Ktor is that in Ktor's test, you can nicely embed those routes separately, just like with HTTP4K in fact, where you can just use your handlers separately from an engine that runs it. And I had to come to terms with the fact that you just have that in Spring too. We typically don't use it that way, but it's called Spring Boot Test, and then there you can use mock MVC. It's the same thing, really. But yeah, so it's interesting because now it's nice because you can just express it as functions, which does mean that you have to, if you want extension functions, to do something like this. So you've got a function called API routes, which then has some functions that we declare immediately. I guess I could work around it if I use like an object to contain it, because then you can just pass along this quotes dependency to that object, but we can just use functions. It's fine. Simple enough for now. Yeah, it's really quite cool. But still, keep in mind it's Spring, so you have to do shenanigans like this. I didn't know. I thought I could get away with something like that because there's no complaining from IntelliJ or a compiler. So what I wanted to do here is I wanted to declare two post endpoints. One that takes a slash and then some kind of an ID so that you can do something with the quote that you know lives at this place, with this URL. And then just a regular post that, of course, if you go post to slash quote, logically it would create a new quote. But so if you don't put this, then Spring can't handle it. He will always try to direct that HTTP request to this handler here and then say, actually, you expected a share quote, but I'm getting an add quote. So, and then, yeah, of course, it doesn't work. But so this is why we've got end-to-end tests. So a put or a post would make sense if we didn't have to respond something. So this is a feature that I'm still working on. It's in a test. Wacht, maybe we can declare that or show it over here. It's sharing a quote, this one. It's currently disabled, but I already ran into that issue with the post not working. So it could be that a put is a little bit better, but I want a response out of it. And the response should be some kind of an identifier that, how do you say that? That is identifiable by the general public. So it should not be a UUID. But I think we're going a bit into too much detail about the sharing a quote. Let's fix the order first. So we've got a test here that adds two quotes, and we want them in a specific order, namely first the newest one and then the oldest one. So if we go to our HTTP, we'll hit our get endpoint over here, where we call find all, and then whatever we found, if it succeeded, then we just wrap those found quotes in the body and return that. Otherwise, we're gonna have to respond with some kind of a failure, because I cannot figure out what a user could have done wrong by just calling a get on /quote. So that means we're limited, which is nice. So that means that inside of quotes is find all. We know that we want these to be returned in a specific order. And I don't want to leave it up to the repository to do this for us, because I feel like it's behavior of the service. It's important to the UI, in fact, that they get returned, or the UI, the REST API, the REST endpoint, that they returned in a specific order. So I don't want to put that behavior inside of a quote repository, although I guess it wouldn't hurt, in fact. It wouldn't hurt. But let's just write it first in the service and see how that feels. So that means, are you making a UI as well? It's not on the planning, but if I could, wacht, where is the thing over here? So one of the constraints is no or a mega simple UI. But if I would make a UI, I know for sure in what kind of a framework and language I'm making it. So I might, but I also might not. Depends on the time that I have. Maybe you can make a UI this summer and then just give it to me. You can see the contract, so yeah, the repo is indeed public. Or it should be at least. It's supposed to be. Post it in the chat again. There you go. Alright, so let's write a test for quotes, which already lives over here. Here, when we do view all quotes, maybe we can also again do the same thing. And we can say that viewing all quotes should return. Actually, it's so silly. We already have that test. It's this one. And here, instead of doing exactly in any order, I'm just going to go like this. So this is the oldest one, because that's the one that we save first. And then we're saving this one. So they should be in this order now. Well, server-side rendered HTML without any JavaScript. I'm not sure, but yeah, what I want to do is... Oh, damn you, now you've got me going, Ayan. Where? Ah, here. New window. Ooh. That's some fun stuff. So, I have made some small project where, spoiler, and then write that code in JavaScript on the backend. Oh my, evil. So yeah, HTMX. I love the thing. It's so fun, and I've combined it with Kotlin X HTML, where you get a type-safe way of declaring HTML pages, and this in combination with stuff like that, the extension functions, you can really just make HTMX work very nicely with this stuff. But maybe I'm not the best person to explain it to you, but there is this person. Ah. Damn, let's just look it up in YouTube. HTMX Kotlin. Yeah, so this is how I learned about it. Here's the Primogen, and he featured this video, and here, voilà, Tom de la Lande. I'll share it in...
So I've really been enjoying using HTML.
Voila, so this person explains it perfectly. This is the one you want to watch. Okay. So if I run my view all test, it should fail. My test setup is not revealing why this is very true. We're depending on the order of them being saved. Oh, what an excellent point. Thank you so much. So that means we're going to put the at in here too. So at equals local datetime.now, which should be fine for now as well, because that will allow us to generate this parameter. Do we want it there? I guess, maybe we can also add a default. So make it the default parameter. Make it now. Yes, fine. Voila. Refactor. Okay. So now we can make this more explicit. So what we want is Lion-O's quote to be first. So, wacht hè. So I make this one some kind of a date. Oldest date. And then this one should be oldest date plus seconds or something. Now it's clearly newer, eh? Voila. We save that one too, and then this should still work, eh? Oh, I still fail for the right reason. Because we're getting Lion-O first and then Snar's quote. Great. Then, if we want to implement that stuff, we could do a find all, and then we could... okay. So, this is a result, so they're wrapped in a result now. So what we should do is sort them. I have to do that again. Sorted by it.at. And now I never know for sure. This is these are the quotes. And now I never know in what order are they sorted. Is this reversed or not? So a good thing I have tests for that. So I was incorrect. We should reverse sort them. But there is a thing, let's call that reverse sorted, nee. Or because reversing them now is nasty, yeah, nee? Sort descending, maybe this one. Yay! Better, huh? But I'm not really happy with this, in fact. So let's evaluate our options a bit, huh? This is option the first, where we know actually whenever you call find all on your quotes service, then you're guaranteed to have them sorted with newest first. That's option one. Huh? Option two would be to put that sorting inside of our find all implementation of our repository. So here this will give us the advantage of sorting immediately inside of the query. So behind the scenes somewhere there's a query being executed, and I think there's a find all, but you can also say find all descending or something. Is that a thing? I want find descending order by descending. Oh man, see, now I'm hitting the limit of not knowing my my framework, I guess. Let's Google that stuff. How to sort a query or something like that. It generates the methods based on naming. Well, yeah, but if you do a Ctrl F12, don't you... Wacht, eh. So in here... shouldn't it list all of them for me? Because I see that there's delete, etc. Find by ID. Maybe it's not in a CRUD repository, but then like in another one, like in a sorted CRUD repository or some stuff. Like maybe what is a list CRUD repository? Whoa. Find all ordered by. Ah, the paging and sorting. This is the one that I was thinking about. So let's do that. Voila. And then here we'll probably get a nee. So it. You can pass along a sort to find all. Oh yeah, JPA. We're not using JPA here. Maybe we can use this one instead then. Oy. Oh, exists by ID suddenly doesn't exist on this one. Can we have it implement two interfaces? Ja, zeker. Voila. Okay, and then we just say, where's the find all? So we say find all. And then there was that sort. This one. Sort by. Thank you, IntelliJ. And then we don't want ID, but we want, and this is unfortunate, how is it not type safe? Boo! Spring JPA will introspect the query method name to backtrace with fields to use in the where clause. But yeah, I'm not using JPA. I'm using Spring Data JDBC. Where is it? Here. So this does, it's not JPA, it's not Hibernate. Then this does give you the option of defining a query itself. So if the find all sorted doesn't work, you can just on the general repository you can add that function if you want. So we could do something like this too. So find all sorted descending or something like that. We don't care about this one. And then it should return a list of records, of course. And you can define the query something like this. And then we say from quote order by at descending. And I guess this should also work. Yeah, indeed. That's we had the same idea, Benoni. So what I can do now is I can just try this one out and see if it works with my end-to-end test. So somewhere in here, instead of doing, we never tested our implementation that we've got now. So this should work too with our servers that was modified now. Voila. So if we then go back here and instead of find all, we do, yeah, we never delegate. So find all sorted. Let's call this one. Now we'll have to implement it. Wacht. Or we could just do, yeah, now we're testing two things. This is not great. So I'll duplicate this one, revert whatever I've got there, call it find all sorted. Guess I'll do it manually then. And I want to do the find all sorted descending like this. And then the plan is to use this one in my quotes thing. Voila. And the API should remain the same. Now we've got we're going to get a little bit of a compilation error because our fake is not implementing that one yet. And we can just do to do for now, which is fine. And we're just exploring. Which reminds me, I should have probably committed once I had that working solution with quotes where we're doing the manual sort. And this also seems to work. So both cases work. Now we just need to decide on keeping one. I think I'm gonna go with the easier one, which is to just do it manually myself. Ah, wait, we still have got that one, so maybe we shouldn't. Yeah, voila, we want to remove the map call. Yeah, indeed. It's still green. Okay. What do we want to do? Ugh. So, if this was a real project, I guess I would go with putting it on the quote repository itself instead of doing it over here. Unless this would return, I can't even do that. Yeah. So I would put it on the repository itself. But this is nice and simple though. I cannot choose. Alright, the put. So one is keep it in the quotes. 2 is keep it in the quote repository. Alright, let's see it in chat. What's your preference? Two. We've got one vote for 2. Nobody else cares. That's great. Then we'll do it in the repository. Great. So that means our... It's okay. It was unanimous. You're right. The people with the power to vote have voted. So... right. So find all sorted. This one we should keep. Actually... we might not even need the find all. Or we could just say, actually, when you do find all, it should be the one that's sorted anyway. It's nicer, I think, eh? Because we'll have no need for this one. Toch? The people have spoken. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'll keep this one find all. This one will delete. And then our implementation, this one should just be this one over here. I think what I can do, I can say equals find all sorted. Inline this one and remove. Voila. Okay, now the formatting is a bit wacky. Sure, voila. Because this will allow me to just have this thing compile, I think, inside of quotes the test over here. We should in fact keep this one, but what we should also do is make sure that our quote repository fake returns them in the correct order, because we'll have to do that anyway because our contract test would fail otherwise. So let's go see if this stuff compiles for now. It does, and then we'll go to our contract test, this one, if we run this one, I hope somewhere it's going to fail. Because in the fetch, I think it will. Damn it. It works there. That's because we're saying in any order. So here again, what we want to do is we want to put that order in there somehow. And we did add that at somewhere. So we could say val now equals now. I keep on pressing enter for some reason. Let's do the opposite. This is now, and then here it's now minus seconds 1. Voila. Oh yeah, and then this one has no text equals. Let's do that here too. Okay. So we expect these to be reversed. Let's run it. And now our DB will work, but our fake will not. Nice. Okay, so that means we should go to our fake implementation and then do the manual sorting over here. So our backing list, what we can do here is we'll say the sort by or order. What was it again? Sort by descending it dot at. Run it again. Should be green. That means our quotes test now should also work. Great. And that means all of the tests should work. Yay! Great. So in this one, we made sure that quotes are fetched in order of, well, in with newest first. Voila. Looks good. Oi. That doesn't look good. Do files contain problems? Why? Oh, it's not used. Gasp. We had a false positive, you guys. Are my tests still working now? So it was just because of the way that we saved or created those single line quotes that it worked like that. And we only noticed because we had a warning. Nice. Was there something else? Yeah, there was. Damn. Eh? Yeah, so this is a lie, IntelliJ. How can you fix that? Is this because the database schema is not up to date or something? You want to refresh? Got no idea. I think that must be it. I also have... where would that be? Okay, so there is a runtime configuration that we have somewhere. Here, is it that one? Oh man. Or did we have an ops? Ah, we had an ops. Okay, never mind. I think it might be even running. Where are the services? Where do you have that? 8. Looks to be running. Yeah. Okay, let's delete all of these tables then. Nice. And then we should just run our application again. Where is that one? We had that one running here. Voilà. go! And this one should now run those flyaway scripts again. Yep. So now we have... should refresh this, I guess. Our quote has the at column now. And now I wonder... Hier, now IntelliJ recognizes it. Great. Okay. And we can commit. Without any exceptions or warnings. Great, eh? Thanks for helping me out with this. It's nice to collaboratively work on this little project. Because it helps me detect some errors that I've got in my code. Eh? Cool! Hey, what an achievement, young. Let's go over the readme. Wacht, nee, the stream.api. So this one we can take off. And then we're all out of to-dos. So the next thing we should do is to make sharing quotes work. And I wonder... So that's the part that we had already where the REST API is over here. Ship it! Yeah, the shipping it we haven't gotten yet. Maybe what another thing we could do is now that it's running, I've got some sample HTTP files over here that we can use to call the actual endpoint with curl, but really it's IntelliJ stuff. So if you just run API/quotes, we're not getting anything. Makes perfect sense. Then if we post this one, a bad request. Why is it bad? Because my tests are all green, eh? Ja, lezen. Add quote missing type ID property. Okay. So, yeah, that's a bit of a disadvantage of the way that I'm running my end-to-end tests. Eh? There is a... So if we add, where is the add quote? Yeah, we're just talking an object here, and then we're using Spring's REST template to do the translation from objects to JSON in there. So you don't really see what the output is, or what the response, or sorry, the post body should look like. But I've since added this thing here. To be able to identify a specific command, and it all went to shit when I added this share quote here. So I think luckily the explanation here is quite okay. Could not resolve subtype of, and then this add quote here. We're using a simple type, missing type ID property at type. So if we add type somewhere over here, I don't know if it works like that, in fact. And we say it's this one. Because now I'm guessing, eh? Oh, that just works, okay. Lucky me. Then if we fetch quotes again, voilà ça. Oh, other nasty stuff. Our dates get parsed like this, so in an array format. I don't really like that a lot. But I guess that's something that we can put on the to-do list. Format dates or local date time in JSON properly. What's that, like the 2024? I think it's like this. 5, 7, and then there's a T or something. And maybe there's slashes in between. Or dashes. I think it will be dashes like this. And then the T for time, and it's 21, 53, something like this. And not this, but then in square brackets. Also a comma, and also a comma. Something like that. Alrighty. Something I want to do. Add a time zone too. Oh, should I really do that? Isn't there like the UTC one? How does that go? Like, is it like this? I forget how it works, but this is fine. There's another question. I see very few scope functions in your code. What is a scope function? Z at the end, thank you. Zulu time, yeah, just. Nice. Yeah, the also and yeah, maybe you missed those. Let's look for .let. Oh, there's only one. And also I use over here, like typically when I want to log and stuff like that. I think apply I barely use because I try to use copy instead or make immutable objects. Then you generally don't construct objects at runtime, let's say. But here for the test builder, we want to use that, of course. Today I learned again, probably, that they're called scope functions. Yeah, I don't know why not. But you're right. I never thought about that. I don't really use them that often over here. I guess there's also not that much code, in the unit test. Alright, you can navigate me. The now date, that was in, I think, in quotes test or something. We had this one. Here, you mean? Also we never refactored our end-to-end tests. Because we said we had explanation there. We saw duplication and we never extracted it. Now dot also, and then create a single quote with it. Like this. And I guess we can move the save over here. And then same for here. So here we would also do .let. Because then you don't really care about the dates. I guess that's what you mean, huh? Like that. So it should, and I think it makes sense to do it like this, but then why is he complaining here? Yeah, because you inline it. I don't know about this. It improves the structure of the code. Wacht, hè. So let's make some more clear differences that everyone can follow along. Okay, so the snarfs code we're gonna build using that the construction with the let function. So let's follow some part first. Let's explain what let does first. So if we've got a local datetime.now, this is the type local datetime. We want a quote here, and here we've got a local datetime. So what we're saying with this let is it's sort of like a map, but on a map function that you call on any kind of an object in Kotlin. So what we're doing is if you read this part, really what you should be reading is I'm going to transform all the states into something else. And the something else in this case is a quote. So once you have let, then what follows is this thing that you don't really see it here. Can we see it? So voila. So here's the structure, or the type signature of this let function. It takes in a block, so a lambda, that takes in a local datetime and is going to return a quote. So that means if you want to define what the parameter name is here, typically it's called it. If it's called it, you don't have to define it, just like IntelliJ is showing us. But you could also give it a name. So here, this is the date or something like that. And then in that case, it's the oldest date that we've got here. And then what Benoni was saying, if I understood them correctly, is that you should use let when in fact you don't really care about the oldest date, but you care more about the quote itself. Because we're transforming the oldest date into a quote. That's what we're doing there. So we're transforming that, and then you get left with a quote. And that makes sure that you can only use this local date time variable only once. That's the benefit of it. But of course, in our code, we don't want to only use it once. We want to use it twice. First to define what the snarfs quote is, and then the second time we want to add something to it, so that we can then assign it to a Lionos quote, or use this newer date to create a Lionos quote with it. And then instead of just creating variables all the time. So what we could do is we could write this in one line, and I'm just going to write it in a second test, just to show different styles. So what we could do now is we could say, actually, I just want to start from one date, but I want to assign snarfs quote and Lionos quote. So two things should be coming out of this thing. And we can say, I want to transform that. So now we know our let function is going to have to return something. We didn't declare the type here, but it should be a pair of two quotes. And then our response here should be, this is the date. So we could say oldest date, or actually it. And then transform that one into this. Save it. Alright, this is silly, So this should be it. And And then we want 2. I'm not sure that will work. It does not. 2. And then here's the other one. And here we say plus seconds 1. Voila. Voila, like this. So this also works, but I'm not sure that I really like this. Mostly because it's on one line. You're right that we're only using this clearly only once. However, I don't think... maybe we can use the regular constructor here of a pair and then get rid of the 2. And then we can put it on 2 lines. But I'm not sure. Yeah, so 2 creates a pair. So this is way more readable, because you can put it on two lines. But I'm not sure that I like this. To me, it doesn't work in my head that I'm transforming this local date now into 2 things. It does avoid creating the now, but so let's compare them both again. So here it has a specific name. It has the name oldest date, which helps me understand. Actually, it should be the oldest quote. Maybe we could rename that already. So that's easier that way. So this is oldest quote. This is newest quote. And we don't really care about whose quote it was, right? Because we see that in the what's it called? In the exceptions or in the assertion failure if there was one. It also brings back the given when then structure of this I do like. But that's just because we this looks like it's scoped. It's very interesting. Too clever. I guess it's what you're used to, huh? Yeah, indeed. It does bring overhand people that don't understand it. But I would even say it brings overhead to people who are just not familiar with this kind of a construction. Because, like I said, you have to read these let scope function as I'm going to be mapping this thing into something now. What is going to be some two quotes basically. So that sort of makes sense, but then why would you? And then that becomes clear inside of this part here where you say just use it once and then add some seconds to it. But mistakes are very easily made. If you do this, I guess you could say that that's just an order mistake. You could make the case that that mistake is also easily made over here. Interesting. I never thought about this. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to keep both of them because then we've got an example. This one I'll keep like it was before. So a more simple variant of it. So here we'll do oldest date. Voila, something like this. Great. 2 would be a better name for let. Yeah, I guess let sort of comes from the functional programming languages, like in Elm you also have a let, which is a very small, or typically small, scoped function that only exists very temporarily to declare some stuff that you want to return. So I think that's why they chose let instead of do, or even map. Yeah, map is so frequently used. Alright, I think that's all the time I had for today though. So we added some new we added some new to-dos. That's good because then next time I've got some stuff to do. And then we refactored the quotes test and we had to, oh yeah, this is right. Let's add both of those things. So in API HTTP, here is it, we modified the, what's it called? Body content or post body of our HTTP file to work again. That's great. Then we added example of scoping the given of a unit test. And then we've got added some more to-dos. Alright. It's a guess, that I'm not sure that that is the origin, but that's what it reminds me of. If we look at, for example, Elm, Elm let expression, it's almost exactly the same. So here you say let, and so here is a scoped bit of code where you only assign 2 local variables, and then the in will allow you to use those in other future calls. So I think that's quite interesting to use it like that. Scope functions bring narrative to a method body. When used properly, they allow you to read and understand a method body top to bottom in one pass. Yeah, that's also how I feel about it. But I think, yeah, if we look at the fake, I think there I've got an interesting example. So here, I actually wrote a similar looking code this today at work, where the person that I was pairing with said, why would you do the meat of the function in the also? Because if you do that, then it looks like it's an afterthought. And he had a point when he said that, in fact. So here, if you look at the implementation of store, it's supposed to store the quote in the backing list. But yeah, of course, not if it's already in there, then we should error. I guess we could also flip it around a little bit. But when you're in the happy path case, what you want to do is, and that's how you can read it, is actually I just want to return whatever the quote was that was passed in, as if that's like the meaty part of the function. And by the way, also I want to add it to the backing list. Now, of course, here there is a, how do you say that? So if we want to rewrite this, I think what you should do, let's go like this. You say start from the quote that you get entered. Then you say also put it in the backing list. And then you say also, or do the transformation and then wrap it in a or in an OK, sorry. Like this. Yeah, the thing is, you could not just chain on backing list.add because that does not return a quote. Unless you say .apply. Or wait, not even with apply, you cannot even do that. How does that work? Can you say else backing list add quote, and now I want to chain on this thing. Yeah, voila. So you put it on 2 imperative lines, and that was the case that my pair was making. So then you would write it like this, just add the quote first and then return the OK with the quote like that. This makes, even though it's a little bit longer, it makes it clear that you actually want to add to the list. But then you lose the thing that else returns. I like that if you read it like this. I like that here there's the thing where you the case of you're doing the first if, and then here's the case of the other part, and they're both one-liners. And that's what I like. Let's see what happens if we invert if condition. That's also not what I want. What if we have a guard clause? Because then you can go like that. Oh yeah, that will not work because we'll have to return. Yeah. Yeah, the thing that we don't see here is that in fact there's a return at or fail over here in front of the if. So now what would we do is we would say something like that. If, then return out of the, what's it called? Out of the or fail, huh? And otherwise you just return the happy path. Yeah, I also agree that you don't. This also doesn't help with code coverage, I think. That might need some more explanation, and I'm tired to properly explain it. But so I think I would now also at work I listened to my pair and we did this in fact. And then because we put braces here, I would also put braces in the if. Like that. This is in fact the clearest for me. I'm so happy we can have these kinds of discussions on stream. Very cool. Alright. Let's just commit this. Small hiding. Up. Wait. Stuff is pushed. Feel free to browse. Yes. Converge. Or completely ignore what was said and then do whatever you want, which is what I ended up doing, I guess. Olé. Thank you so much for joining the chat, and Olé, this makes it. This motivates me even more to keep on doing this stuff. So maybe to have some how do you say that? Some history. I used to be doing this 2.5 years ago, very consistently, I should say, every week. And then I did Advent of Code, and then just stopped doing live coding sessions altogether. I don't know why it was, but just happened. And I think there were multiple instances of people mentioning how they were streaming and doing YouTube and stuff like that, and they just by them mentioning this stuff, I was thinking, oh man, I actually miss doing live coding because I learn a lot about myself. I learn about Kotlin, and this is why I'm doing this stuff in the first place. And I've got an excellent case for it again, which is this KunlaQuota project. Yeah, so thanks again for helping. It was the first time for you. Enjoyed watching and participating. Thank you so much for participating, in fact. great. I hope to see you, I think, next week. Yeah, next week I'm still around. The week after, I will not be around because I'm going to KotlandConf. Woohoo! In Copenhagen. If you're going there and you watch me running around there, come say hi. Ale! Folks, have a good one. Have a nice rest of your evening. Ah, nice. See you in Copenhagen. Great. See you or until next week. Have a good one. Bye bye.